The Lost Signals present
Children of the Night.
a celebration of universal horror
One more picture, then we will dig it out.
and another Halloween sequel
They'll survive its memory.
with in-depth analysis,
Now I know what it feels like to be God.
adult content,
The drugs I took seemed to light up my brain.
adult language,
You have to open graves, find girls to fall in love with.
and spoilers.
Bela became a wolf, and you killed him.
Join us.
Welcome to the finale of MOTS-O-Ween 2018.
Well, sort of, right?
For the classic horror.
The classic, I remember,
Okay.
yes, and that's right. For the
Universal
Universal
finale.
classic monsters.
Yes.
We've looked at some of the great ones of, I think, the 1930s.
Yeah.
And for our finale, I'm going to say accidentally, jumped ahead 2 decades to a 1950s one.
What happened to be the last one in line, sure.
Yes. So I'm Jonathan Ian Manzer, here with Stephen Ramosi,
For science and monsters.
Scott Thurlow,
You'll find me in my own lagoon.
and Chris Morgan.
Jumped in the deep end on this one.
All right, Scott, would you like to start off with the funny logline?
Yeah, so I've gone with, if I find a creature in a lost lagoon, isn't it mine? As a what scientist, of course.
And that is what we will be debating throughout this.
Whether or not it's theirs. Okay, can't wait.
So, Stephen, would you like to start us off with the plot of this masterpiece?
Sure. A scientist finds a fossil of some sort of creature that he doesn't know what it is. Goes and finds a bunch of his rich college friends, as far as I can tell. Brings them all
No
out
scientist colleagues
into
at
the middle of the
Institute.
fucking Amazon. They go find a lagoon. There's a creature that hunts them for a long time, pretty ineffectually, and then effectually, and then they murder it. And
The
that's
end.
it.
How effective it is as a killer depends on the race of the person involved with this.
That is
Correct.
also true.
Because if you're a Caucasian American scientist, you're pretty safe.
Oh, well, not towards the end.
Alright.
I would say.
Well, he runs out of all of the other
Yeah.
the natives who are helping out. So
Yeah, well, maybe we'll get to that later, but I have a possible explanation of that, as flimsy as it may be. I'll come back to
Please.
that. I'll come back to it.
Oh,
So that's kind of the plot. There's a lot of dead space in this movie, I would say.
Poisoning.
At least that was
There
interesting.
is also a lot of poisoning.
Well, there's a lot of swimming and poisoning and swimming.
I feel like they just wanted to use the same scenes over and over and over again.
They did have a separate
They had
underwater unit.
3 poisoning scenes. They had a hand reaching out onto somewhere about 7 times in this movie.
Oh, I loved how they used the same shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cost effective, my friend.
And otherwise, it's a fairly boring plot. I mean, they're going to try and find this creature, and it takes them the whole time, and then he gets mad.
Yeah,
and
pretty
starts,
much.
and starts picking them off.
The way you the tone of your voice and why you're describing it, sort of encapsulates how at least I think we felt while watching it. As you said, there's a lot of dead space to it. I should have maybe gone with Shape of Water meets Moby Dick or something, like Jaws, but less interesting. So there's this movie's only slightly longer than the other ones from the 30s, but it feels like twice as long at times because literally nothing is happening in the plot. There's scenes that didn't need to be there at all. It's all filler. I guess it's supposed to be some characterization from the interchangeable white bread scientist dudes, and the one female scientist who was the main guy's girlfriend, I guess, that they brought along. But a lot of it's just plotting and padding as well. So the core plot story is fine. It's not it's confusing. It's very, very simple. But that's probably giving it a 1 because of that. I don't think it's even enough for a 2 on this one. I think they sort of lost something between 20 years between the 30s and 54, whenever this came out.
Charm.
Yeah.
Charm.
The other movies I thought were a lot better paced than this one.
Yes.
But I don't know. What do you think, Ian?
So it struck me immediately that this wasn't filmed in the same era that I watched the other movies. And I don't know, when I think back on Dracula or Frankenstein, okay, they're masterpieces compared to 50s sci-fi. Because you could have taken this out of the Black Lagoon and put it into the desert with aliens coming down.
No.
That's the exact same film.
Or outer space.
Yeah, it's upsetting the way because it progressed in certain ways. For instance, I suppose the stakes are higher in this. In theory.
I don't know, but
well, it killed people off in this, where it was previous. A lot of the other movies we saw.
I see what you mean. Yeah, sure, I get it.
Didn't have that. And this, again, it felt more modern, but I feel like it feels modern because movies have taken all of the wrong lessons out of this era.
Perhaps.
And you're right. Whoever said charm, this is devoid of charm.
This is very flat. I mean, I like how it opened up with God created heaven and earth, and then here's 14 million, billion years of evolution. So it was just like they gave one little handoff to, I guess anybody who is a creationist, and then it was like evolution. They really tried to be smart with this film. They really tried to talk about and you have to give a little credit for like what was the science at the time, what did we know at the time, and they did try. I'm going to give them credit for that, but because of that, it's also really, really dry. I mean, how do I say this? It was like they were trying to work in a biology lesson in order for it to be smart. They worried more about the science or the science they knew at the time and less about the characters.
So I disagree slightly because his lesson on the lungfish I thought was mildly interesting.
Oh, I agree.
And much more interesting than the slow plotting of like they I don't know what the other movies had about it that made them work that this doesn't have, but it just
but whatever it is, it's clearly absent from this one.
Yeah, and I'm going to give it a very shallow 2. But it is there is an A point and a B point, and it goes from A to B. Even if it's a trudging.
Yeah, it felt like a slog, I guess. That's why I'm giving it like only a 1. Like, I see what you're saying there, and I think I want to say something to address something you said, Chris, but I think a lot of it goes to themes in a second, so I'll probably bring it back up there. But I'm saying, like, it feels like they went backwards somehow, and like in terms of the quality and engagement for me of the plot. So that's why I'm giving it like just a 1.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with a 1 as well because you're right. There is a story, and it makes sense. It's clear, but it's very simplistic, which is fine if you do a good job with keeping up the tension and like. Having it be interesting, but to me, it just really wasn't.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
There's just the hand approaching you. That's not tense.
That might be iconic, but it doesn't like add a lot to the plot.
I wonder how tense it was for audiences in the 50s.
Like we touch upon that, but
much more. I don't know. Like it just was very boring at this point. Like at this point in my film, academia scholarship. This was a boring movie.
Remind me, Steve, what was the age that they were studying? The geographical age.
The Devonian age.
Right. Maybe in the Devonian age, this was like more engaging, but right now it's not really all that much. So.
Yeah. This is difficult. Ian made a really good point to give this a shallow 2. I mean, it does have a lack of charm. It is plotting, but it's also a certain amount of entertaining, and I really wanted the character Mark to die, and that was my main motivation for watching it.
Didn't he?
Yeah, finally, after like forever.
Although it wasn't even clear that he died.
Steve was unclear about it.
No, he died.
He dies.
He dies.
That's
thankfully.
But anyways.
I mean, it's kind of clear that he dies, but like from the encounter that he has, it's not clear that he was dead.
Sure.
Until later, like 2 scenes later, it was like, "You all saw what happened to Mark." We're like, okay.
He had an accident while we were underwater. Trust me, I was the only witness.
Anyway.
So
what do you end up giving it?
You gonna give it 2?
I don't know.
Okay, Scott, on to you with themes.
So you guys both touched on it briefly, and we'll delve into it further here. So, like, yes, it's about, 20 years or so, generation removed from the originals. So I'll save something that you brought up earlier, for you say, but it's, again, like, the exploration of science and what it can... So, like, this is post-war America, obviously, so, like, there's a line early on when one of the scientists is like, and soon man will go to the stars as well. And, like, that's somewhat a parallel to, like, the space is unexplored, and so is the deep oceans. We don't know anything about them. Like, sure, that's a fine point. And they're all trying to study. And the one guy, like, I guess, I don't remember their fucking names because they're all so generic. the guy who was less of a douchebag, the lead scientist.
David?
Yeah, sure, him. Jack Johnson.
Ah, damn it.
Sorry.
Still my joke.
I was gonna leave it to you, but like he at least was again trying to do this for knowledge and to better mankind in some sense. Whereas his partner, of course, is just greedy. Essentially, wants the fame, wants the prestige from it. So like that is like contained throughout. Like their sort of dynamic sort of exemplifies those two mindsets about it. But yeah, it's like again, I don't know where else to bring this up, but also it's a bunch of white people like invading, essentially, if you will, like going to a foreign place, acting as if they own it, and they literally are poisoning the Amazon. Yes, in an attempt to like battle or fight off the creature from the Black Lagoon, but still
to capture it at first.
If they just
Sure.
left well
Kill
enough
off
alone.
everything else in that lagoon.
Yeah, I understand.
In order to
Like
capture it.
again, I found it
Well,
like
wait a minute.
unfortunate
It's only
implications.
supposed to stun them. I mean, I'm sure that
Sure.
like a bunch of stunned fish
I was
lying
gonna
on
say,
top
is
of
it
the
really
water.
good for fish to be like floating at the top of the water?
No, that was
It
my
is
whole
not.
point.
So like there's all that there, and like it's there well enough. I think it's handled decently. So like I said, I think there's another big angle to it, but Ian technically brought it up, so I'll let him take over that perhaps. Something in relation to the previous films.
Oh, so a lot of the earlier ones we did also dealt with science, but in a way of like we're approaching the frontiers, and let's be wary of the frontiers. Like this had a much more pro-science aspect to it. Where like we can conquer whatever we find.
Exactly.
It had an optimism to it where the other movies had a kind of dread,
More
to them.
vagary to it. Yeah.
So I like that the view that America could achieve something one day. I mean, it hasn't lived up to that promise, but there was a time in its youth
In which
when
it was
optimistic,
possible and hopeful, sure.
bright-eyed and bushy-tailed about battling fish monsters. Now all we do is love them in Shape of the Water.
Sure. But no, it's all good enough for me to give a 1. I don't have much more to say. You guys go on.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna probably end up giving it a 1. Although the unfortunate implications of like those dudes going to the Amazon and just fucking it up basically is not great. But I do like the idea of like, hey, let's look into science and like let's go to the stars and let's go to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
You know, like hey,
The great unknown.
yeah,
There's nothing there.
there's so much there ready to kill us.
That's why you have to kill it before
I like that.
it does
so
so.
I'm gonna end up giving this a 1.
But
I
yeah.
think.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 1. I mean, it really tried. I don't know if it was always successful, but they really tried, and I'm gonna give them credit for that.
All right, Chris, continue talking with the antagonist.
The antagonist is David. He was a douchebag from beginning to end, and
The main guy, you mean? You
Is that
said
Jack Johnson or John Jackson?
Sorry, John Jackson.
exactly.
Mark. I'm
Can
sorry.
you keep him
Dave-
straight there?
Yeah, they're two of the same fucking people. One's
They
blonde,
look-
one has brown hair.
Yeah, they
That's
looked
the difference
alike.
between them.
God damn it, they looked alike. All right,
And they
well,
wore the same swim trunks.
and they had they had both generic names. Somebody brought that up. Yeah, David. He was a douchebag from the beginning.
Nope, Mark.
Mark.
See?
Mark. God damn it. There you go.
Here's the
Mark.
blonde one. That's how you know
Mark,
he's
the
bad,
blonde guy, the surfer dude.
Sure.
He is a douchebag from beginning to end. I couldn't wait for him to die. I was rooting for him to die. And to be honest with you,
he did.
to be honest with you, he would. I mean, all joking aside, not just because I hated his character, but if you look at it, everybody's got an open mind. Even the boat driver who is native to the area had a certain had fear and reverence. Everybody had a certain amount of reverence. Even the I can't believe he's not Bing Crosby guy with the pipe who got his face almost ripped off. Everybody did have a certain reverence for the creature and their situation. And this guy was in it for the money. I mean, he was the archetype for the greedy corporate douche.
No, he's Belloc from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
He's Belloc. There is no creature that you can possess that I cannot take away, David.
Yeah. Nice one, yeah.
So it's hard because he's a sucky character, but he was the antagonist. And
You think he was?
yeah, I definitely think he was the
Not the
antagonist.
monster?
No, I think the monster was just, if anything, I kind
Monster
of
was misunderstood. They came into his house.
yeah, exactly. The monster is
I
misunderstood.
did say that, I suppose, but...
That's like, well, he did kill a couple of people. I'm like, yeah, but he didn't know. I mean,
he's like a fucking.
Well, he's an animal.
He's a good guy with a gun. Basically, they came into his house, started fucking shit up.
Stand your ground.
Yeah,
stand your Lagoon.
No, I mean, I am standing by that. I think Mark is the antagonist. I mean, he was the opposition to every single person on that boat, and he really. I mean, look, the monster did not, of course, typical trope at this time, did not hurt the woman.
Yeah, but which was fucking very weird.
Yeah, but let's face fact.
Fish want to fuck our women, and we got to stop them.
But let's all. But
it was exactly the Shape of Water.
But also, by the same token, there was an opportunity there. There was an opportunity, but shithead Mark, is the first one to shoot him. He's just like, look, I got the spear gun.
He was a jock.
Yeah, he was a jock. He was. I seriously, honestly believe he was the antagonist. I think that were he not there, the creature would have had a chance. I mean, maybe the creature would have still had become the antagonist and would have threatened them despite their best efforts. But he was never given the chance because this dickhead with the spear gun.
Well, to be fair, the creature did straight up fucking murder 2 guys before anyone did shit to him.
That's what I was going to bring up.
In the tent.
And that ties into my possible explanation as to why it only seems to murder the natives, because it is used to hunting them. They were as natural prey.
Granted.
Whereas the white men come in is not used to it.
Yeah.
I was going to say, granted, Mark didn't know that before he shot the fucking thing. But, to be fair, it was likely that it would have killed them, or started killing them anyway, even if he didn't shoot it.
I also do have a point to this. He knows to booby trap the pathway out with the trees so they can't escape.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of makes the fishman a little bit more intelligent and a party. It's not just a wild bear being cornered or something like that and lashing out. No, it set up traps.
It's the predator.
After they shot him.
Yeah, after they shot him.
But he hasn't. He kept. Yeah, so I guess it's okay to go on a revenge scheme.
No, but that's my point, though.
Imagine somebody breaks in your house and shoots you. Like, yeah, go ahead and fucking.
But I'm not going to set up a leverage.
But that's kind of my point, though. I mean, given the fact that he had intelligence, if he had given the chance to, if they had the chance, if somebody had given them the benefit of the doubt and asked first before shooting him, maybe there could have been some effort to communicate. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he would have ultimately. But the whole point is, for what I saw in this movie, I'd give the creature the benefit of the doubt, and I blame Mark. I think Mark basically, is the problem for all of this shit.
You trigger happy white man again, like I said.
Yeah.
But I mean, the movie, of course, wants you to believe it's the creature, and I think it is well enough. Like, yeah, it's like, again, a literal monster that they've never encountered. Sure, they might be like intrigued by it. Oh, it's a different species that we must study. But also, it's picking them off one by one. Like you said, it has a lair. Seems like it's pad, if you will. It's intelligent, uses the environment against them. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think yes, Mark is a total dickbag, but he's like part of their crew. It's like they start infighting about what to do against this monster that's attacking them. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give it pretty much, like, largely, if not all, antagonist credit, and think it was well enough. Like, again, we'll never be sure, like, how tense or scary it was to our audiences originally at the time. It seems cheesy now, but still, I think it works within the framework of the story.
It's a slippery slope between giving the benefit of the doubt to the creature from the Black Lagoon to them running away with our women much later down the line.
Sure.
There should be no cohabitation between creatures of the Black Lagoon and humanity.
That's kind of...
Well, not yet.
1.
I'm still giving it a 1, mostly for the creature.
I am going to not... I'm gonna side with Chris on this one. I don't see the creature as an antagonist. I see it as... I might give it protagonist duties, actually, on this.
That's really strange, man. But okay.
It's really
fish lover.
I totally want to hear that argument. I totally do.
But I don't.
You both have got the Ian Smith look.
Maybe it shares antagonist duties, but Mark is the real fucking reason that all this shit happens. Like,
I don't agree 100%. Go on. I think we might disagree a bit.
Science is the reason this all happens.
If Mark wasn't on this thing, they would have literally tried to capture the thing. It wouldn't have worked. They would have been like, let's get the fuck out of here. They wouldn't have shot it. I don't think it would have made that barrier if they hadn't shot it. And and they would have just like been on their merry way. I think
Maybe.
this is all his.
This is all
fault.
speculation, man. All we can say is about what is in the film.
Sure. So what's in the film is Mark is the biggest fucking dick in the film, hands down. He's a much bigger dick than a creature that they go into its lagoon and try to fucking murder it.
He's
like
not,
immediately try to murder it.
He's not quite the Frank shitty character, but he's
No.
heading towards that.
I think. Well, Frank was shitty in a whole different way.
He's a date rapist.
He's just
Thank
a
you,
piece
Donnie.
of shit. But yeah. So anyway, I'm gonna give Antagonist a 0 for
Since you're calling it Mark.
Mark.
And you're giving it a 1 for
It
Mark?
seems you're quite antagonized by Mark.
I am.
He's
a dickhead.
irritating.
Chris, are you giving it a 1 because
Jack
of Mark?
Johnson.
Yeah, I'm actually
Okay.
gonna give it a 1 because of Mark, because
Interesting.
I am blaming him for it may speculatively it may not have changed the end result, but I think it would have been actually a much more interesting thing if that little shithead wasn't there and they actually did try to communicate with the creature.
Okay.
And I still think you could have worked up the tension and had the whole thing with the woman. So yeah, I'm going to blame Mark, and I'm going to give him 1 because I thought he was an antagonist.
Fair enough. Interesting angles, but I enjoy it. I dig it.
All right, I'm on to protagonist then. David, who's the good-looking scientist. The one thing I like
The
about him is
non-Mark good-looking
other-
scientist.
there's a line about him early on where they go, like, I would imagine someone like looking like you would be a scientist, and like, haha, funny.
Joke's on you. I'm actually an actor.
But beyond, he is a 50s science fiction
Yes.
actor. With
100%.
like he studied everyone who came before
Mm-hmm.
and tried to mimic their use of dialogue.
He's the Zap Brannigan.
Yeah.
Kind of.
That doesn't
point.
necessarily. I don't dislike him, but I'm not engaged by him.
I see what you mean.
John Jackson.
He's there, and everyone around him is much more interesting. So I'm going to probably give him a 0.
I might come down with the softest of ones, like the shallowest of ones, like you're saying, the plot, because I think he was characterized well enough. Like he's sort of the more like noble / moral one of the group, again, of course, versus Mark. So like there's that angle to him. At least there's that to his character, and I think he has smart plans. He knows what he's doing. He's like, listen, here's what we should do. We're building this. I'll fix this. I'll fix that. Yeah, go ahead. I feel like you want to.
You said the Zach Brannigan thing. He's more of like the older Dr. Venture,
Okay.
like type,
All right.
just the chiseled jaw
Sure.
and the.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that means he still knows what he's doing
Yeah.
in both cases. So, like, I think I'm going to give him just enough of 1 for that. Was he a great character? No. Was he effective in the plot? Yes, well enough for me. I thought he was decent enough to swim over the line for a 1.
I yield to Steve-O. I want to hear his argument on the creature being the protagonist.
I was not a big fan of David. But if I'm gonna make an argument for the creature, which I have to now,
Do it.
I really enjoyed the. Here's the thing. So, like, you're not really following the creature, which makes it difficult to make an argument that it was a protagonist.
What are its thoughts and motivations?
But, well, that's kind of what I was going to say. You do get a feel for, like, what its motivations are, which turns out to steal the woman. But, like, if we're talking about just, like, its kind of characterization, you get a lot from, like, the underwater scenes, which a lot of times felt very, like, padding. But, like, when you see it, like, swimming with the people before it actually attacks, I think that's interesting insight into, like, what it's thinking. And, like, it doesn't actually attack them until much later on, after it gets shot. So, like, it attacks the natives, like, on sight outside of its lagoon. But once they're in the lagoon, it kind of just, like, hangs around, like, almost like it wants to, play with them in the water and stuff. Like, it swims underneath, I forgot the woman's name.
Kate or Kay.
Yeah, Kay. It swims, like, underneath her and, like, is just looking at her as, like, she's swimming around in the lagoon and things like that. So I think that was interesting and gave a little bit of insight into, like, who the creature was and like what it was all about. Like it wasn't just a straight up murder machine, which I liked.
That's a fair point.
But will I give it a 1 for a protagonist? Are you trying to interrupt me and make a point?
1, those are all great points for him being antagonist. Secondly,
what? Why?
He's no King Kong, and I think King Kong did that role much better.
It was Beauty who killed the beast.
Yeah, but King Kong was a much better movie.
Yes. So this is like
you say it's no King Kong.
Would you say King Kong is the protagonist of King Kong?
I might make that argument. I haven't seen it in a while.
I'd be more inclined to agree with that than make a Creature of Black Lagoon.
I'm just saying, if it's a similar type of thing. I mean, granted, it's not as good as King Kong, but
like they made this one.
They made it work in one case and not in the other. Is what he's saying. This one being the case that didn't work in.
That doesn't mean he's not the protagonist, though. Just because it didn't work.
No, because there's a difference in the way they handled the storyline. That if they didn't kill off the two native for the workers early on, the case would be much stronger. Yeah. They made him violent from the onset to make him more of a threat.
Yeah, that's true.
They made him more of a predator, as you were just saying, and all the things of him not attacking head on, but like he's going to sit back and watch and see what his enemies are going to do. As I said, all great points for being antagonist.
Not necessarily. He didn't necessarily look at them as enemies, though. Like when they were in the lagoon. Now, granted, him killing the two natives right in the beginning was a little bit of a setback in terms of this argument. But like,
it's big hard to overcome.
But like, honestly, he doesn't attack them until in the lagoon until they attack him, which turns it into like I said, someone defending their house, which is usually the protagonist of a movie if you think of it that way. Kevin McAllister.
but they're Caucasian Americans. The entire world is their house.
Yeah,
that's true.
That's another reason why they're the antagonists. I think I am going to put the creature as a protagonist and give the creature a 1. Fuck that John Jackson guy.
I'm going to say that all things being equal, Kay should have been the protagonist of this movie. She wasn't. They wanted to make David.
Joe Jackson,
Jack Johnson, Bo Hunk with the,
Bo Hunk.
Bo Hunk with the.
You're the only one who called him that.
Bo Hunk with the swim trunks.
Feel like the rhino there.
No. I don't really get a good sense of there being a protagonist. Steve-O made a great point for the creature, and I see where your argument with the creature being an antagonist, but I'm sticking with my antagonist, and as far as protagonist goes, I'm going to give this a 0, because I really think that Kay and/or her mentor scientist should have been, but they decided to replace them with Frick and Frack, and Mark really was right? Was really great at screwing everything up, but David really didn't have a strong narrative push. He was more like the anti-Mark than he was the...
Actually, that's a really good point.
The David?
Yes.
That might have swayed me there at the end. Sorry,
what are you doing, David?
Good call. No, I was gonna make sure of the scores. You said 0, yeah?
Yes.
0. You're on the cusp over here?
Yeah. I kind of like that, Chris. I'm definitely not putting the creature, but I think I will switch to a 0 for the Dr. McBlanderson and his partner, Blandy, PhD. Yeah, I'm switching to a 0. You're right. There's not enough there to him.
I want a PhD.
I like the Mark and anti-Mark thing. That's pretty good. That kind of got me.
Okay, well, Steve, would you like to discuss supporting characters?
Yeah, sure. Kay would have been good if they had given her a little more. If they hadn't every 3 seconds been like, "You're a woman, you can't do that."
Well, they didn't.
As a woman, get down into the cabin.
It happened like
where you'll be safe.
Throughout. As a woman, change your clothes every time you're on screen.
Yeah. Also, she changed her clothes every scene.
They didn't comment upon that, but it did happen.
I wish I could have liked her more. Like, she had a lot of promise, but
she gave some dialogue She did perform very well.
Oh yeah, I thought
With what
her
they
performance
gave
was
her.
good.
Yeah.
I just thought that they completely, cut her character down every chance they got with the script, which was really disappointing. But I did like Pipe Guy, the other doctor, and I love the captain. I'll leave it at that.
I knew you were waiting for it.
But like, the captain was my favorite character. I said it as soon as we met him. I was like, I hope this guy lives to the end, and then he fucking does. I thought for sure he was gonna die.
We made a super close bet. That's true.
Actually, I knew he was going to live because he's in Revenge of the Creature as the boat captain.
All right,
Meta information.
Oh, I just have one last thing to say about Kay.
Yeah.
Which I'm very upset that she turned into a legitimate scream machine.
Oh my god!
At the end of that movie,
Every time she screamed.
Yes.
I was sitting there going, "Don't scream! Don't scream! You're better than this."
You
Don't
knew they were
scream."
gonna do it, but like I will say, like yes, Lucas was the captain guy, and he was probably like the best, like the most entertaining one.
God.
He was pretty cool. Like it was. I guess it's gonna sound sexist, but I don't mean it to be. Of course, I thought it was somewhat impressive that. Unexpected even that they made her also a scientist within their group, not just like David's random girlfriend that he brought along on the trip or whatever, something like that, right? So like that was fine at the beginning, but then of course then she's just relegated a lot to the background. She has a couple of good lines, yeah, but not much. She does the best with what she's given with the script, but again, it's not a lot. So like yeah, I'll probably give it 1 for Lucas and like leave it at that. Really, like the other guys were okay, they were there. Oh, like even their old mentor guy was fine. He's like the same guy you've seen in like the 30s ones, but done even better there.
Yeah.
But I mean, they set her and Carl, I think, as her mentor.
Yeah.
They set them up as the royal smart people, and then as soon as we got Mark and David, they were relegated to
talk.
yeah,
they weren't allowed to.
You're
talk.
an old man and you're a woman. The men are talking now on deck.
Kay could scream and give support. She supported whatever Dave did.
Yeah,
and then her focus was then on David. And then she's worried about Mark's feelings with regard to David. I mean, they dumbed down her character, which was a shame because she should have been the protagonist of this film. She should have been at least, and we can reference this now because The Mummy was 2 films ago, but she should have been at least as strong as Helen was, and ultimately she did not end up being that. But this is not to say I didn't like her character and Carl's character at the beginning. I was really a fan of Lucas, and I am going to consider the creature as a supporting character. And on the strength of the creature and Lucas, I'm going to give it a 1. But I think they could have done more with what they had.
The more we've been talking about Kay, the more I remember the beginning of the film. She is very, very intelligent.
Yeah, she is.
And that they strip her of everything over the course of it's offending me now.
Yeah.
And I'm not the type of person who gets offended over these type of things, but just like, all right, we're going to prop you up a little bit, and then we're going to shove you into the corner.
Now you become the most caricature,
that scene. There's one like infuriating scene where she like basically is an apologist for Mark being a fucking stalker.
Yes, exactly.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Yes.
He gave me my job and so forth.
That was so infuriating.
And when she's talking to Carl, no, she's talking to the guy with the pipe.
Dr. Pipe.
Bing Crosby.
Dr. Pipey.
But she's just like, he's like saying, he's like, you're in love with David.
Body double.
You're in love with David. And she goes, oh, but I'm worried about Mark. I'm like, really? This is your character arc? Which one of these two Nimrods?
And unfortunately, it's that guy's only fucking talking scene, basically.
Yeah. Both of these idiots should have died. I mean, if neither one of those morons were on the trip and it was just Carl and Kay, Bing Crosby and Lucas, things would have worked out a lot better. Because again, Lucas had a healthy fear of the creature, but he also had a certain amount of respect for him.
Sure, that's a good point.
And everybody did. And they tried to make these two guys. These two guys were the two wasted characters. The two guys they focused on were the biggest waste of time. Everybody else in this film, as far as I'm concerned, did a lot better job than either one of those two idiots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still fine enough for one. No, sorry.
And I agree with you. It is complete. I'm getting more angry and more offensive at the fact that Kay was sidelined right away.
Yeah, we noticed that it sucks. Like, but I can maybe sign of the times. It still doesn't make it good.
It's weird because though there was promise there in the fact that the squad
and then
makes it even
then they stepped back. They walked it back. Sure, right.
In a lot of ways, Helen was ahead of her time. That they made her in a lot of ways a stronger character all the way through.
For sure.
than K.
So I'm going to give it a 0 for this.
It's tough because you just made that really, like, everything you said about it, but I don't know, should I follow our tradition of just picking out one that you like, which is Lucas, and giving it a 1 because of that? Or should I give it a more thoughtful...
I like Lucas and all, don't get me wrong, but...
He didn't do much either, to be fair.
He's a stock character.
Yeah.
A very good stock character that I still think works this day. Again, bringing back Raiders of the Lost Ark for some reason.
Sure.
Sala is that role as well.
That's fair.
But like, I don't think he elevates it enough.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're right about that, or at least I agree with it. Thinking about it, that I might have to come down on again maybe softer 0, but because of the points you guys made about K and her characterization and everything else, yeah, come down with a soft 0, but still 0 now.
I'm gonna give it a 1 because of the creature. Because I do consider him a supporting character.
Since you're putting him here, yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think he was the most sympathetic creature. My sympathies lie with Kay because of the way the film was made, not her character. But for the creature, I sympathize with him more because when he was swimming under Kay, and we'll get back to that in a minute, I felt empathy for him. I felt that he was in his own way trying to communicate. Even if it started with an infatuation, which once they hit the trope later on, it kind of did with it. But no, I'm giving it a 1 because of the creature.
All right.
Okay, we're all done with that?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's on to you, Scott, with dialogue.
Yep, it sure is. We're hunting the creature from the Black Lagoon. Man, it was so, like, stale. Like, some of it was okay. But again, I think I've said this probably to a number of the Universal films. This one is the weakest, though, amongst them for sure. There were some scattered like exchanges and lines that were like decent enough, like that I thought were well done, well handled. But a lot of it was just so fucking bland, boring, and it could have been cut out. And then, like you said, when Kay's character basically degrades into like the screaming woman running away, like that eroded any like in personality she had at all. And the two douchebags are like, "I'm the bigger douchebag. No, I am. No, let's go to the water. We'll see who it is." Like it was just so it's so forgettable, and like it became grating at times. So like that's probably the biggest flaw I would say about it. It's like 70-30 okay, but 70 like just so bland.
Yeah,
so I can't say much more other than that. Giving it a 0.
I don't have much to add to that. I think that you are correct in that assessment, and there's nothing like memorable about this dialogue. It was fine for maybe 50% of it, I would say.
Yeah, you said something like the other week, Steve, like bog standard, more on the bog side.
Yeah.
This is also the case here.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to give it a 0 as well.
0.
0.
That's all there is to say.
It's a good amount of dialogue for that question.
All right, Chris. Style?
Style. Without question, they really were enamored with the fact that they had all this underwater photography.
Yeah, they were.
But by the same token, the iconic the creature swimming under K is not only iconic, but it was, even for the time, just a magnificent shot. I mean, to be honest with you, once I realized how dull this movie was, it was the one thing I was looking forward to. And they actually did, they kind of did it where they're running laps, and because she went back and then forth, and he was just about to touch her, and then something happened in it. And I thought it was magnificent. I'm also going to give, there's something else I noticed about this, is that, funny enough, it's a Universal film as well, Jaws. There were a lot of things in here, like the thing with the net where it almost pulled the mast down, and a few other things that definitely were the forebearer to Jaws. And on the count,
that's true, because
of that, and because it did, for all its stock stuff, it really did have some effective shots. It had something, again, things that were iconic, things that actually set the trend for certain things. I have to give it a 1. I do have to say, the one thing I enjoyed about this film, even though I could have done without watching Mark and David swim for 30 minutes, but the creature, the way they had the creature, whoever did the swimming for the creature was just incredible, because that man could hold, or I'm assuming it's a man. It was the 1950s.
Women can't go in water, Chris.
Oh no, the woman.
Not in the 1950s.
No, women could, but in 1950s, whoever it was.
We're getting way off topic.
But yeah, but whoever was in the creature suit, and by the way, the creature suit, the fact that the gills work, so there had to have been, there was a lot of practical effects to it. Yeah, it was really, I think, if anything, that style is the strongest element to this film. I thought the creature was really well constructed as a practical suit. Everything about him, I was really a fan of. I'm definitely giving this a 1.
Yeah, all that's fine. I'm sorry. I don't have much to say, so let me jump in. Yeah, you covered a lot of it that maybe while nowadays it seems annoying that they had too much underwater footage, I'm sure it seemed cool. They were clearly getting the most out of it. Yes, the creature design is iconic, and yes, it looked cool, like the practical effects. And all the overall shots were fine, and just it was a nice change of scenery from like a dingy castle or somebody's fucking parlor room from the other one. So
yeah,
I'm giving style 1 overall.
They finally had a budget.
Yeah.
I just had one quick thing to say. Chris, the suit, the image of the creature by Lagoon outlasted the film. And you're absolutely right about all that. It's the only reason people watch it nowadays.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that the style is probably the strongest part of this movie. Not only everything that you just mentioned, Chris, the cinematography was really good. The underwater cameras, yeah, they were having a lot of fun with that shit. Like, there was way too many underwater shots, but they were kind of cool. At least where they started with them. The music was actually pretty good. The score, I enjoyed it. And as you guys have all mentioned so far, the suit, the creature, was really well done. Other than that, I just thought it was a fairly stylistic movie in general. Just like, it's, despite the fact that it was kind of fucking boring plot-wise, it has a look that,
yes,
when you see it, that's the creature from the Black Lagoon. And like, even not having seen it before, it was kind of like the world was kind of recognizable right away.
That's a good point.
From just cultural osmosis and stuff like that. So I have to give it a lot of credit for that, and that's going to get a 1 for me.
Is that 1's all around?
I think so. So I think, like you said, strongest point of the movie, I would say.
Yeah.
So we're on to recommendations then. I start. No. There are much better Universal monster movies. There's much better stories of women, fishermen who love them. Yeah, so no.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree. You just said like the Jaws connection. See Jaws instead. Like, yes, you can see the precursors here, the precursors, that is, to some of the stuff in that. But yeah, amongst the monster movies for this year, I'd say pick some of the other ones from the 30s. This one you can totally skip. It's okay, but really not necessary to watch.
Yeah, completely agree. Don't bother. Go watch any of the other ones. The reason to watch this would be you're making a fish movie, like a Fishman movie.
You have a podcast about the Universal horror,
or just skip to the parts with the creature. You can see the design and then skip all the boring shit.
Yeah. Honestly, it would probably be way more interesting to like read a book about.
yeah. That would be true.
To be honest, so I would say you can skip it.
I'm actually going to recommend it with the caveat that it's a good movie if you're bundling up your recycling, writing out holiday cards, that kind of thing.
It seems recently you've been like tying movies to activities together. Like,
no, but
it's a good movie if you're taking your dog for a walk or whatever.
All right. The caveat is, obviously, if you're into these kind of movies, I think there is to see it once. It's an hour and 19 minutes, and to see it once, I think it's a good film to see once. If you're into this kind of thing, if you have no interest in it, if you're into anything but like these kind of films, you're obviously not going to see it. But I think it is an important enough film to see. It's maybe not be. It again is not my favorite of the 6 movies we reviewed, but again, I think all of these films have merit in cinema, and I think that they're good to watch.
Oh, man, I guess, but I'm just going to reiterate something Ian just said. Like, just look at the cover of the artwork of this film, and like then you have seen the movie.
If you're
like,
a completionist.
It's so much more iconic than like it's more worth it than seeing the movie. So I don't know. Yes, you're right. Like its legacy is there, but I think it's not as strong as people think it is, and that people give it credit for. I'll give it credit enough, but again, that's my final thought on.
But maybe this goes back to like a theme I keep coming up with the literature when we choose these 1950s, 60s horror stories. It's like for me to catch up with the all the horror research.
Yeah, I get it.
So yeah, from that point of view, I am going to recommend it. Maybe from more of an anthropological point of view.
Okay.
But yeah, I am going to give it a recommendation.
All right.
Okay. Well, I'm going to give that the scores then. Christopher Morgan, our big-hearted fellow over there, gave this a 7.
I get as a 7, really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Steve-O and I gave it a 5, and Scott gave the lowest score with a 4.
You guys got me to switch on one, but sure.
This is actually one of the less agree
more disparate
scores. One that we don't agree as much on everything.
That's absolutely true.
What does that leave us?
I mean, I think we can all agree it's the least of all the films.
Yes.
This is one that I would not. I've seen it in my.
You've already given your recommendation.
Adult life, but I won't watch it again. Let's put it that way.
It's a 5.25 overall.
Yep,
I
that's
think
right.
that's perfectly
just
fine.
Below, or just above average, actually.
Yeah, the tiniest sliver above average. Sure, I would say that is true of this movie.
If you set 5 as average.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Jonathan Emanzer here with Stephen Ramosi.
And I can't wait till we return to the Black Lagoon.
Oh, God. Scott Thurlow.
Poisoning a river near you. See you next time.
And Chris Morgan.
Show me the way to go home.
Tired. I want to go to bed.
Editing and engineering by Christopher Morgan. Music by Christopher Morgan. Check us out on YouTube and iTunes for the shows, and on Facebook and Twitter for updates.